Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the media briefing for today. We're going to go ahead and get started with our topics. We have a really interesting list for you today. We're going to start with this issue of homelessness. As you may know, the county and the city of Salinas have been working jointly on addressing homelessness issues and needs and looking at finding solutions working together. There was a second joint meeting of the city and the county last night, and we're fortunate to be able to get a recap of what was discussed last night with some of our county staff that was in attendance. So I'm glad to introduce two of our county staff today, Lauren Suan-Supa, who is the Community Affiliation Manager, and Anastasia Wyatt, who is our County Housing Program Manager. And I'm hoping that you both can give us a recap of the meeting last night and what we can look forward to as we move forward jointly on the homelessness issue. Good afternoon, ladies.
Hi, Maya. Thank you so much for having us. And I will just mention, too, that we did get Rod Powell as a representative from the city of Salinas to help join us, although Megan Hunter was not able to make it. Our presentation, just in a brief recap, was really focused on sharing some information about what some of the roles and services that both the county and the city play and services that we offer. Just to, in brief, to kind of recap, when it comes to safety net services, really social services and the health department, behavioral health play key roles in linking people to food and shelter and healthcare needs. We also talked about the administrative element and infrastructure support provided at the county through our county administrative office, public works, public safety, as well as housing and community development. We reviewed a bit of our funding that we receive, a lot of that really pointing out that so much has come through the county and the city. However, it is really one-time funding that has come through as urgent, specific to addressing COVID-related needs or kind of one-time project needs. The city covered also some of their roles as well, which a lot of it really did mirror a bit of what the county plays in the elements of community development, safety, public works, but also a lot of the community services and outreach that they're helping to coordinate. We really were very happy to share a bit of our successes that we've collaboratively worked on, such as the completed construction of the new Homeless Navigation Center, the SHARE Center that's set to open next month, as well as some of the projects the city has worked on with support from the county, such as Project Home Key, which was the conversion of the Goodnight Inn. And they've also opened a navigation center down in Chinatown, that's the Sprung Shelter. We also reviewed a bit of what work is happening within the Coalition of Homeless Services Providers, who acts as our continuum of care, and the work that they're doing with the consultant-focused strategies. That consultant group is working on a rewrite to a 10-year plan to address homelessness, and has been doing a lot of data collection and gathering, doing extensive community engagement to receive input, observations on how our current systems are working so that they can prepare a final report that gives us kind of that roadmap on ways that we can improve our services and activities to hopefully reduce homelessness to what we call a functional zero. Not to say that that means it ends homelessness, but that our systems are so finely tuned that should somebody become homelessness, that our infrastructure is able to capture that and support entering them into beds or what type of services is appropriate. I just kind of want to highlight in on, our short-term strategies and our long-term strategies really being focused on short-term, increasing housing stock, improving the way our current shelter system works. A lot of our early feedback from the consultants indicating that by improving some of our current systems, by reducing the amount of time that people stay homeless, reducing the amount of time people are staying in shelters, really can have a very positive outcome on addressing how we're working on homelessness right now. Additionally, looking at improving some of our outreach methods and ensuring that we're continuing to support people who are living unsheltered through sanitation support and encampment responses. In the long term, really looking at housing development and following the final outcome of this 10-year plan, which is set to be completed in June. Our final recommendations, which all were approved by the Board of Supervisors and City Council, were 3 points. One to do with Project Room Keys collaboration. So having us both collaboratively participate with the Coalition of Homeless Service Providers on what is called a 100-day challenge. That was an offer by the California governor to try and house as many people in that program as possible within 100 days. Also to work collaboratively to find a way to potentially extend that program and work on updating our current MOU with one another to support guidance in developing affordable housing outside of the site at 845 East Laurel Drive. That's where the Share Center is currently located. And also working collaboratively to organize a convening for a regional summit for when the 10-year plan is completed and launched, so that we can really engage all of the players, all of the community providers and jurisdictions in coming together with the recommendations of that plan.
Thank you very much, Lauren. And on that topic of housing, this is a great segue to go to Anastasia and share with us what you gave to your report for the council and the board last night.
Great, thank you, Maya. Yeah, we really started in with what are ways that we can house our population, not just through housing construction. That is one way that we can increase our housing supply, and not just permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is housing with wraparound services, helps people who have disability, mental health issues, chronic illnesses. That's a specific type of housing that is needed in our community for more of our chronically homeless. But we also were talking about, sorry, there's a little
we'll make it happen because
feedback there.
Yeah, I've got some, if you're not speaking, if you could mute. Thank you. Go ahead, Anastasia. I think they got it.
Sure. So just the one type is permanent supportive housing. The other type that I think most of us are really concerned about in our community is affordable housing, and ensuring that we increase the supply of affordable housing throughout the community, because most people really are looking at some sort of affordability, and that we're getting priced out. We're seeing this especially with COVID as rents are going up. We're hoping there won't be a lot of evictions. People need affordable housing to move into, and that goes along into rapid rehousing programs, where rapid rehousing programs where people lose their housing. They might need rental and move-in assistance, case management services, that housing navigation, just to get into a new unit so that they don't end up homeless. So rapid rehousing really is a great intervention and gold standard in the housing world. We want a wide variety of that type of housing, works with a wide variety of people and helps ensure that people don't remain unhoused. So that's a big component of what we can do: affordable housing, permanent supportive housing development, working on our rapid rehousing programs. DSS has a great program with CalWorks, and we want to continue that program and ensure we expand it as much as needed. And also work with our affordable housing providers and the Housing Authority on increasing the voucher supply, the Section 8 and vouchers that everybody hears about, which are really called housing choice vouchers, and increasing certain types of vouchers for people with disabilities or people who are experiencing homelessness. Those are things we need to work with the federal government on, and look for other types of voucher programs that might be functioning in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anastasia. And then Rod, thank you very much for joining in and filling in to give us the city perspective on all of this. Could you first tell us your title for those of us who are watching who may not know you?
Sure. I'm Rod Powell. I'm a planning manager for the housing division for the city of Salinas. And I'll just capitalize on what Lauren and Anastasia have already said, and as our director of the department, Megan Hunter, presented yesterday. I think it's a really opportune time to continue to capitalize on the partnerships between the coalition and the city and the county. There's been a lot of momentum with the influx of money that has come in, and a lot of that is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that these organizations have really come together to strategize, leverage, and put forth really viable solutions. But it's really important for us to also be mindful that this is a lot of money currently, but what we normally receive is far less than this. And so we need to continue to look for new funding streams. I know there were discussions about potentially moving towards a housing trust fund and looking at county housing bond measures. Those things are still very important for us to continue to look at, along with many of the best practices, so that we get the most amount of services and outcomes of positivity for homeless populations for our dollars that we're receiving.
Thanks very much, Rod. And I see Supervisor Askew has been able to join the media briefing, and I'll give her a minute to orient herself to this camera and unmute herself. Thanks very much for joining today. I'm hoping you might give us that umbrella picture of all of this, because this really is a joint effort between two governing bodies.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Maya. And thank you for everyone. We've had some great media coverage that highlight some of the successes that we've had. I think that one of the things I'm most proud of this year is really just doubling down on the commitment between the city of Salinas and the county in working together at all levels, starting with elected leadership. We have our city manager and CAO meeting regularly. We have our staff working together just hand in hand on coordinated projects, getting housing projects into the pipeline, coordinating immediate response to encampments and to individuals who have immediate needs. The state and federal dollars have been absolutely critical. And in order for us to continue doing the level of work that needs to happen, we're going to need to be very clear and specific about our requests to the state and federal governments for additional resources to allow us to move forward. But as chair of the board, one of the things that I really am proud of is the way that all of our 12 cities have come to the table to show interest in identifying properties that are available for housing projects, and really looking at how we can coordinate our response and maximize the limited resources that we do have locally. So I'm not sure if it was spoken about, but one of the action items that occurred last night, the board and the council both agreed to give direction to our staff to begin to prepare a summit, the Homelessness Summit, where we will receive information on the 10-year plan to end homelessness. I think in the past, that plan has sometimes been one of those documents that government is required to prepare, but then we're not actually required to deliver on it or do anything with it once it's prepared. But the work that's going into this 10-year plan and the way in which we collectively commit to the actions that are recommended in that plan will inform and determine how Monterey County and our 12 cities are able to respond to and meet the needs of our community. So I look forward to that joint summit later this summer. I hope that our media partners will engage and continue to sort of dig beneath the surface on issues of homelessness, and recognize some of the complicated dynamics that are at play and the just incredible staff work that's going into planning and response and really looking towards the future.
Thank you very much, Supervisor, and thank you all for presenting today. And as I alerted our media partners, we're going to take questions after each segment. There's just so much in these segments that we want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. I don't see any questions in chat, and I want to give people a chance to put anything in that they might have after listening. And I'm waiting a couple seconds here for any questions. And I'm not seeing any, so you obviously have delivered incredible information that there are no questions about. But wait a minute. Oh, here's one. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any dates for reports released that are coming, and for upcoming reports and for the summit? Any target dates?
I can share. The report is scheduled to be completed in June 2021. So we just received the direction to begin engaging on developing that and organizing that summit. So we would want to have the summit after the final report is released. So as Wendy, Supervisor Askew has said, we would be looking at something later in the summer after the report is released.
Thank you, Lauren. And I'll just add, I think that one of the things that was highlighted yesterday is really that, there are some of our communities who really are stepping up. And when you look at the homeless census and you look at the where shelter beds are currently being provided and where subsidized housing and supportive housing is being provided, it's more housing is being provided in District 4 and in Marina specifically than almost the rest of the county combined. And so the summit would be an opportunity for all of our city partners to step up and say, what is our role in being a part of the solution? Where do we have property that can be made available? How do we all carry the weight and responsibility of providing services and housing to our community members? We need champions on every single city council, and we need the public to recognize that this responsibility really does lie with every single one of us to identify and to support projects when and where we have funding to move forward with them.
Thank you. And I have no other questions in, and so I'm going to let you guys go to your other noon meeting or lunch. Thanks very much for participating on the briefing today. Bye-bye. So our next topic is economic revitalization. There are some exciting new programs coming online to help the businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic. The SBA's Restaurant Revitalization Fund will be open for registration at the end of this week and applications at the beginning of next month. Also, there is another program called the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. We're going to talk more about these programs. We have Darby Marshall with our Monterey County Economic Development Division, and Cindy Merzon, who is with Cal Coastal. Darby, I'm seeing Cindy. Darby, do I see you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you go. Great. Darby, why don't you get us started, and then we'll introduce Cindy and talk about the programs.
Okay. So Cindy's going to talk about some very exciting programs that are coming online from the Small Business Administration. They are very narrowly tailored to a few very specific economic sectors in the county, primarily visitor serving. But the county also has a small business revolving loan fund that has $1,600,000 that are available for small business loans if you don't qualify for some of the new SBA programs. And those funds are accessible through Cal Coastal Rural Development Corporation at calcoastal.org. Pretty favorable terms. And Cindy Merzon in the Small Business Development Center can also help you apply for those dollars. So I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. She has a lot more information on the new SBA programs. Cindy?
Thank you, Darby. Hello, everyone. I want to just quickly say that there are several SBA programs that are still continuing. So I want to let you know that they're still available before I dive into the new announcements. And those are the Paycheck Protection Program that's been around since last spring is still available to apply through May the 31st or until those funds are exhausted. This again is an SBA administered program, but businesses can get those forgivable loans from lenders. So local lenders are helping do that. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is still available. It's a long-term loan program at a low interest rate for businesses that were impacted by COVID. Those who haven't applied yet can still apply through December the 31st. And California also has a California Small Business Relief Grant. It is now in round 6. It's a grant program available for small businesses, and we can help folks connect with that as well. But the two really exciting ones I want to tell you about today are the ones that the SBA announced and or opened at the beginning of this week. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant application portal opened on Monday. And this is being handled directly by SBA. There are no other lenders involved. It is a very complex grant application, so I don't encourage applicants to try to go it alone. Or if they do, they really need to prepare ahead of time and read what's on the SBA's website about what's required. We are referring people to SBA's website so they can just search SBA Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. There's lots of information available there. We urge people to carefully read and refer to the frequently asked questions. There's an application checklist. There's also an application user guide that provides detailed step-by-step process for applying with screenshots and whatnot. So it's really important that people read that before they enter their application, because once they submit the button, hit the submit button on their application, no corrections or changes will be allowed. There's some pre-work that's necessary to apply for a Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, and that stuff takes a little bit of time. So if they don't have a DUNS number, they need to get busy applying for a DUNS number right away. They need to register in sam.gov. And they need to have an EIN if they don't already have an EIN. All of that's necessary before they can even begin the application process for the Shuttered Venue. So I would encourage people to, again, to read the details on the website and to contact us for one-on-one assistance if we can help them go through that process. The small business development centers are SBA resource partners. We're not the SBA, but they fund us to provide services to small businesses in Monterey and San Benito counties. We also are resource partners for California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, who also provide funds to help us assist businesses so that we don't charge the businesses for our services. So we're happy to help people access any of these resources. Let me tell you about the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Super exciting about this as well. It's a grant program. It's being administered also by the SBA. There are no independent lenders involved. So there's an online portal that people will be able to submit their application. They can register beginning this Friday and then begin to submit applications on Monday, May the 5th. SBA has also partnered with many point of sale companies like Square and Toast and others, and they're still looking for other point of sale companies that are interested in helping their clients apply. So business restaurant owners will be able to either apply directly through the SBA's application portal, or they'll be able to apply through their point of sale company if they're a partner for this program, since the point of sale company has all of the information that will be needed in the application process. So I would encourage them, restaurants that are interested in this, to talk to their point of sale company and see if they're connected and can help them, or if they want us to help them, we can also help them as well. There are a few things that folks need to do ahead of time. They need to go to, again, they can search SBA Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It's a very detailed website and can go through all of the process of an application guide, a sample application, whatnot, can look at everything before they actually physically have to apply. We urge people to read all of those things carefully to make sure that they're eligible and that they're ready to have their documents are scanned and ready to go, so that when they start the application process, it will be a smooth, easy process to apply. Also, if they review it ahead of time on both of these programs, if they identify questions they have, it's a lot easier for us to walk them through the problems, help them solve their questions, again, before they start entering their application. And the California Relief Grant, I think I mentioned it opened up today. So for round 6, so people can apply for that as well. So there's just tons of great financial relief opportunities for business, in addition to the ones that Darby talked about with the revolving loan fund that CalCoastal administers. We work with all of the lenders in the area as well as CalCoastal, and our job and our goal is to help businesses weather this storm and come back out fighting hard and strong.
Thank you very much, Cindy, for that really thorough overview of that. And I think one takeaway for all the businesses that may be considering this is that preparation. You've really been emphasizing, review and, prepare to do this. Are there things that they should know going into the review to have available as they make the application? any documents or business documents?
Yes, there are specific list of documents for both of these programs. So if they go to the SBA's website on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, there is actually a list of documents they need to have available, and they need to have them scanned and ready to go. So it's their taxes, it's a whole variety of things, and the list is, it would take forever to go through the list of all of it, but it's business documents that support their structure, that show what their business losses were, and shows that they're legitimate, and helps the government be able to pay them what they're applying for. So there's a list of a sample application, a list of documents, and a specific program guide for both of these programs. So I would really encourage they just go through it and be very detail oriented, step by step, collect the documents, get them put in PDF format so they can upload them the way that those application portals require.
And you did say that there's help for businesses. This is it seemed to be fairly daunting, this process, although important.
Mhm.
How can businesses who are going through this application process get help from CalCoastal?
Okay, so the first thing I really encourage them to do, because we are getting, as you might imagine, lots of requests, and we don't have unlimited resources to respond. So we really want businesses to go to those websites, to read those documents, come up with a list of questions or things that they need help on, and then register for our services. And the quickest way to get into the queue, as there is a fairly long line to get in, is to go to http://casbdc.biz/cc sign up, and we can drop that into the chat box. They'll register for our no fee services. They'll receive a confirmation email when we've received their registration with a link to a calendar to choose the best date and time that's the closest to available now. And then we'll assign them to a professional consultant that can answer their questions and help them walk through that application process.
And then if you would you be able to put that in the chat?
I will do it. Absolutely. I'll do it right now.
And then I also know that you had a training program this morning related to the Restaurant Revitalization program. I hope that is correct. How did that go?
Actually, the training program that you're referring to is one that was put on by the SBA. The SBA is doing national webinars, and we'll put all of those events as they become available to us on our calendar. So our website is calcoastalsbdc.com, and there's a calendar tab, and you can find all kinds of free training, not just on these topics, but all kinds of business assistance topics. But there are specifically training by SBA for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund today, tomorrow, and Friday, and then every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, April the 23rd through May 14th. One of the California SBDC centers is putting on a restaurant revitalization webinar each one of those days at 10 a.m. So all of those dates will be on our calendar by the end of today. And of course, we'll update them as new calendar dates arrive. There are not webinars available right now for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. It's probably more complex than a webinar could do. So we encourage people, if they need help, to do a one-on-one appointment for that.
Thank you, and sorry for giving you more work. Sorry for giving you a webinar.
It's okay. It's okay.
But it is great to know what resources there are out there for people who might want to listen in before they get started with the application process.
Yes, and I will say that most of these webinars are being recorded, and the ones that are being done by SBA are also being saved. The recordings are being posted on SBA's YouTube page, so people could go to U.S. Small Business Administration's YouTube page and search for Restaurant Revitalization Fund or Shuttered Venue Operators Grant and see if there's something there.
Thank you. And then, so now we have an opportunity to ask Cindy some questions. If there are any questions that people might have, we'll wait. We've got a lot of information that we put in the chat, the website for both of those SBA programs, and then the CalCoastal calendar and sign up links. And I'm not seeing any questions coming in. Thank you very much, Cindy, for really a thorough look at both of these programs and what people need to do to get the help that they need.
Very welcome.
Thank you. And then, so our last presenter is Dr. Moreno. He's going to give us an update on COVID-19 information and metrics. Good afternoon, Dr. Moreno.
Hi, Matt. Good afternoon. So yeah, I have a brief update for today. Thanks. So in terms of vaccination coverage against COVID-19, at least 58% of Monterey County residents 16 years of age and older have received at least one dose of COVID-19. So that's good news. We're increasing the number of individuals who are, and proportion of individuals who have some immunity to COVID-19. As far as the Janssen vaccine, as you know, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices for the CDC and the Western Scientific Safety Review Group both met. They both recommended that clinicians resume using the Janssen vaccine or Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But the FDA did include additional information on the handouts that are available to clinicians and people who are receiving that vaccine. That does mention the rare cases of thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome. So clinicians can resume here in California administering that vaccine, but the California Department of Public Health has urged providers to make sure that people who are receiving the vaccine or choosing whether or not to receive the vaccine are aware of the possible but rare instances of the thrombosis with thrombocytopenia that have been reported among some people who received that vaccine. And clinicians have also been given advice from the CDC on how to assess someone who presents with certain symptoms that might represent thrombosis in people who have recently received that vaccine. As far as the state blueprint, we in Monterey County have been in the orange tier for 3 weeks, and according to the California blueprint case rate and test positivity metrics for Monterey County, the state continues to assign us to the orange tier. I want to let folks in the call know that we are in Monterey County involved in a study that's going on by the California Department of Public Health and Stanford University. It's called CalScope, and the intent is to estimate how many Californians have antibodies to COVID, and they want to do this over time. There'll be 3 waves, and they also want to learn about COVID-19 antibody prevalence by different demographics like age, race, ethnicity, and by region. And they want to understand better whether or not there's certain activities that people engaged in or have engaged in, which is somehow associated with whether or not people in California have antibodies to COVID-19. So there are several counties involved. That includes Alameda, El Dorado, Kern, Los Angeles, Monterey, San Diego, and Shasta counties. I had a conversation with the state recently, and they let me know that about 15,000 invitations have already gone out to some Monterey County residents. They were mailed to Monterey County residents. They were chosen randomly, and those started going out April 20th. Up to 1 adult and 1 child per household can complete a survey, and then upon request, they can receive a home blood collection kit where they can just prick their finger and submit a little bit of blood and send it back to determine whether or not the child and the adult have antibodies to COVID-19. The folks that are conducting this will not be asking for personally identifiable information such as the participants' names or dates of birth. Anyone who's participating and sends a specimen in can expect to have their antibody test results sent to them within 3 to 4 weeks. And they will also receive a $20 stipend for each survey that is submitted back, and also each kit that is returned with the specimen. So a household with 1 adult and 1 child participating could receive up to $80 to participate. I really encourage people here to receive the invitation to respond to the survey and submit the specimens. I think it's definitely will provide Monterey County and the state important information about the proportion of Californians that have immunity to COVID-19. And I think some people who may have been curious as to know whether or not they have antibody because they think they might have had COVID, or they know they had COVID, or they received the vaccine. And so they can get some information as to whether or not they have antibodies against COVID-19. Let's see, moving forward and moving on, Maya, I'm going to move on to guidance documents. In June of 2020, the Monterey County Health Department issued guidance on what we call social circles. And that was in recognizing that in order to get through the pandemic, there's certain people from different households who just really needed to meet to help each other in different ways to help get through the pandemic. But we do, as a department, recognize that the state has issued a variety of guidance documents for most recently for gatherings, but also for guidance for private and public events that bring people from different households together in much larger groups than we had included in our social circles guidance document. So the health department updated the local social circles guidance, and basically it's updated to state that people need to follow, in Monterey County, need to follow the state guidance regarding gatherings. So that's to make things simple. There's just one source of guidance, and that is the state that we will continue to follow. And the other update is on face covering orders. So until now, the Monterey County residents have been required to follow the local health officer face covering order, as well as the state face covering order. And the state has since then issued many business sector guidance documents that include face covering requirements. And just recently, the state issued new guidance for gatherings, which allow fully vaccinated individuals from different households to gather indoors without wearing face coverings. And so at this point, my local health officer order is more restrictive than the state's guidance documents regarding face coverings. So in order to remain aligned with the state, I decided to terminate my local health officer order regarding face coverings. So I just want to be clear, people who reside, who work, who visit Monterey County must still continue to follow the state guidance with regards to face coverings. And again, and also I want to be clear that local businesses must continue to follow face covering guidance included in the California Department of Public Health Blueprint for a Safer Economy business sector guidance documents. And they must also follow Cal-OSHA face covering requirements included in the Cal-OSHA COVID-19 Prevention Emergency Temporary Standards document. So that's my update, Maya.
Thank you very much, Dr. Moreno. I've got some questions in chat for you, and so we'll go ahead and get started with those questions. What do you think the prospects are for the end of most COVID-related restrictions on June 15th, which is a date that we've been hearing a lot about?
Thanks, man. So I don't have any predictions on how this will look in the middle of June. I think we have to continue to do what we can to get as many people vaccinated as possible, identify people who are infectious with testing, and and also making sure we continue to do what we can to reduce the transmission. So we'll have to wait and see how things transpire.
Okay. And how close is Monterey County getting to the yellow tier? What has to happen next for us to move into that less restrictive tier?
Okay, yeah, good question. So we have, the state continues to issue weekly updates on the metrics for each county, including Monterey County. And our test positivity rate overall for Monterey County falls into the yellow tier. The positivity rate for the Healthy Places Index quartile 1 also is in the yellow tier at 1.3%. And again, what that means is if you looked at the last 100 people who got tested, on average, about 1 out of 100 people are going to be test positive. The other 99 people are going to test negative. So we're doing pretty well right now in terms of our test positivity. So well that those two positivity rate metrics fall under the yellow tier. However, our adjusted case rate is still above 2. So the question is, what would we have to do? We'd have to get more people vaccinated. I think we have to continue to do what we can when we're out in public so that we don't expose other people or expose ourselves to COVID-19 in order to get the case rate down below 2. And then we'd have to be there for 2 weeks to get into the yellow tier.
Thank you. Another question for you. This statistic came out, 58% of Monterey County residents 16 years and older have had at least one dose, one vaccination. How many county residents within this age group been fully vaccinated?
Oh, thank you, Maya. That's a good question. Maybe I'll try to get that from my staff and get it back to you, and you can share it with the media.
All right. Moving on, does county health keep track of the percentage of people who fail to show up for their second COVID-19 shot at its clinics? And if so, what is that number?
Yeah, thank you, man. I don't know that we're tracking how many people have missed their second doses, but I can look into it.
Okay. And then what is this is in regards to the antibody study. What is the study specifically asking in regards to the activities people are engaged in? And do you know what the specific questions are for that part of the study?
Yeah, thank you. I haven't seen the actual survey itself, but the state was kind enough to let us know what type of questions are on that study. So survey, excuse me. So they're really looking at, as I mentioned, demographics, race, ethnicity, where people live. And then I think they are asking about certain activities, but unfortunately at this moment, I don't recall what those activities are. But I really still encourage people to complete it. It's going to be helpful it's really what we need in order to get an understanding of what percentage of the population has immunity to COVID-19. As we're trying to get to herd immunity, what we really want are people who have some immunity to COVID-19, and people can get COVID-19 immunity either through being vaccinated or actually getting sick with COVID-19. So we have an estimate of how many people received the vaccine, but we don't know at this time what proportion of the population actually has antibodies. So I do encourage people to complete that if they receive it.
Thank you, Dr. Moreno. That is all the questions that I have in at this moment. And I'm, unless I get another question in the next few seconds, we'll wrap up the briefing. I do know that there were some unanswered questions, and we will work on those this afternoon and get them to you as soon as we can. So with that, we'll end the briefing for today. Thanks everyone for taking part, and we'll see you next week.